It was just thing after thing after thing. And I just remember sitting and telling God, like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I began to wonder, what is a way that I could take my life and take it quietly? And then I thought, would anybody care? So my name is Candace Day, and my husband and I have been working in Honduras for 10 years. We were newer to ministry. We were young. We did young adult ministry. That wasn't it. We did kids ministry. That wasn't it. And we just began to ask God, what is it that you would have us do? And our church began to advertise a trip to Honduras, and we thought, well, of course, we'll go. We were still newly married, new parents, had a 1-year-old at home, and we left, and immediately upon getting off the plane, the Lord confirmed it in my heart. This is it. We were on the car ride home from the airport, and he just went, well, what did you think of the trip? And I had contained myself as much as I could, and I just said, if we had, all I was missing was our son. I said, if we can just come back and get him, I would go back tomorrow and I would live there. I expected him to go, oh, well, that's a lot, and it get quiet. But he immediately said, me too. And then the guy that led the team we were on, he reached out to us and he said, the pastor in Honduras wants to know if you would consider coming there on a permanent basis and living there. Our pastor is actually a builder, and he said, we're going to take a trip next summer. We're going to actually build your house so you can live there. The church is going to sponsor that. And we're just going, yes, everything is lining up. God is so good. So the goal was we're going to go for 1 year, and then we're going to reevaluate and see if we want to do that again. And I just remember being so excited. I didn't sleep the whole night before. We get there and the house is delayed. It was just like issue would stack on top of issue. And then after about 4 months, we finally got to get into our house, and we were sleeping on borrowed beds. And then we would get the news every day that if you want to get your container out and get the things out of your container, you're going to have to pay this fine. And I just remember thinking, in our stuff, before we even got it out of the port, we had run through half of our budget within the first 6 months, and I thought, God, I'm done. I can't do this. We've lost the money. We ended up going back to the States for this short period of time, and I just remember saying, God, if you don't replenish the money that we've lost, I'm not going back. The Lord gave all the money, and I roll my eyes when I say that because it was so miraculous that people literally came up and put money in our hands at churches we visited, and people knew our situation, and they gave so generously. And I should have been rejoicing, but I was secretly going, you're ruining my way out of this. Like, you are messing it up, and I want to stay. He answered, and he provided, and so we went back. I took a job at a bilingual school to make a little bit of extra income. We finally did get our things out of the port. Things were going okay. I was still pushing down a lot. I was just like, okay, this is life. I just have to suck it up and deal with it. And so I started working at this school, was working with first graders on their English, and there was this little boy named Axel. Sometimes with me being the assistant in the classroom, he was one of the ones that while the teacher was giving other instruction, I would kind of have to take him off to the side and just give him a little extra help. One weekend, we were, I was scrolling through Facebook, and there was this news story of a vehicle that had been taken by the rains because it was rainy season. 3 kids in a car. The oldest was driving. She was about 18 and had her 2 little brothers, and the car got swept away. And so I'm reading this, and then I realized the names in the news story, and it was Axel, and it said they were still looking for the youngest. It was miraculous for his siblings because they found them hanging onto a tree. I'll never forget the news there because they don't censor anything, and that was very traumatic for me to get used to, or it was an adjustment, and I don't think you really fully adjust to that. And that was another thing I just kind of stuffed down, the desensitization of just seeing a dead body. They put all that on there. They put it on the news. They put it on their Facebook, and Facebook censors it a little bit, but really not much. And I just had gotten used to seeing that kind of thing. But for it to be somebody that you knew, and they had a visual of his dad carrying him in his arms, his body, because he was recovered about 3 days later. The school just went into this really deep mourning. It was actually the first time the school had ever lost a student. So our principal had no idea how to manage it, how to handle it. She asked me, she just looked at me and she said, "Can you do it?" I thought, okay, the people pleaser in me just said, yeah, I'll do whatever. Whatever you need, I will do. And I went in there and I told these little first grade children that their classmate had died, and they had really no response. They just had questions. They didn't emotionally respond, but they had very childlike questions of, well, does that mean he's an angel now? And so I'm having to go, he's with Jesus, trying to, say it in a way for a child to understand. And then some of them were like, well, he'll be here tomorrow then. And I'm like, no. Then I started to become a little frustrated that I had been put in this position and really nobody was coming to my aid to help me. It was weird. I went to the funeral and I remember having to learn how they grieve, and they grieve so hard. And then the next day is like nothing happened. I went through the motions, but I felt myself slipping into a depression, a very deep depression. It was just thing after thing after thing. I ended up completely falling apart. I got down to like 110 pounds, and there were just a lot of things that just began to happen. People pleasing, trying to maintain appearances, trying to keep people happy in two different countries, trying to make sure that you're reporting back, because if you don't report back, people pull their support. Reaching out seemed like weakness. It seemed like, are they going to pull their support? Are they going to take us off the field? On long car rides, I couldn't sleep because I was so afraid we were going to have a car crash. I felt ashamed to go to God. I said, if I go to God, he's going to tell me that we failed. And I just remember sitting and telling God, like, I don't think I can do this anymore. Everybody was asleep. I went into my bathroom one night and I pulled out medicine, a container full of Tylenol and Benadryl and all these different medications. And I began to wonder, what is a way that I could take my life and take it quietly? And then I thought, would anybody care? And then it hit me, they would have to get my body back somehow, and I don't want to make it work. Like, I was so worried I was going to still be a burden on somebody, even in death. And I just remember sitting on the bathroom floor, and when I tell you the Lord came into that place, he met me so quietly, but so powerfully. And after being silent for so long and not really speaking, and Stephen begging me, what is wrong? Just talk to me. Tell me what you need. What do you need? I'll do anything. And I remember waking him up, and I said, I need help. He was so ready to help. He was so ready to figure out a way to help me. And he said, okay. And we called my dad, and he just said, Candace, I'm saying this as your dad, not as a pastor, but you're not a failure. You're not a quitter. He really probably doesn't have any idea what that did for my heart right there, because it was like, so if I do walk away, I'm not a failure. And he went, you're not a failure. I finally felt like I had a point of contact, and I was feeling a little bit better. And then boom, I finally get professional counseling, and I began to gain resilience. I began to feel free. And some people think, especially in the Pentecostal church, sometimes healing, if it doesn't happen, it happens laying on of hands and in the altar. And God does heal like that. But sometimes he walks us through a process. These parts of my story, they've been so deeply painful, but he is such a redeemer. Testimony is the most powerful witness tool that you can have, to share your story and somebody come to you and say, that happened to me too. Suicidal thoughts and things, a lot of that's not talked about in the church. I want it to be a place where we can have those kind of conversations, where I can be honest about that and say I struggled with it, but God was there.